Mention the name Pat Tate to any local copper and they can probably spin you a yarn or two. He certainly became tea time fodder at Nick canteens across the county when he fled Billericay Court on the back of a motorbike. It took detectives more than a year to hunt him down after the dramatic 1989 escape. His court appearance was sparked by a meal at Basildon's Happy Eater restaurant after a heavy weekend's clubbing. Tate got into an argument over the bill and, true to form, attacked the cashier before stealing money from the till. He was arrested, but while awaiting trial at Billericay Magistrates Court, Tate assaulted the police officer left to guard him, escaped through a window and disappeared on the back of the bike. Police who appeared for help in finding him warned the public he is dangerous and a violent man. Tate holed himself up in Spain, but later made the mistake of crossing the border to Gibraltar, where he was arrested and sent back to Britain and a lengthy jail term. On another occasion, he was being sought in connection with some robberies. Tate held an off-duty police officer who had spotted him in a supermarket straight through a plate glass window. Then there was the case of the WPC who was shoved, spat at and pinned behind a door by Tate as he tried to enter a house and help a man with a heart condition. It is probably no coincidence many of his victims were in the force. It is rumoured his big ambition was to take out a copper. He was a big man, a bodybuilder who worked out at Progress House Gym in Hadley. At the time of his death, he was around 6 foot and around 18 stone and found it easy to intimidate his victims. One associate remarked that a room darkened as he entered it, and Superintendent Ivan Dibley, the officer who investigated his death, admitted, "I don't think I've ever met such a huge man. The tops of his arms and shoulders were just massive." The pair got to know each other when Dibley suspected he was responsible for a series of armed robberies and interviewed him at Swellside Prison on the Isle of Shepley in Kent. He was in the gym every day and actually ran the prison gymnasium. He was fit as a flea, he revealed. The main way these people get their money and status they crave is by using brute force, intimidation, whatever it takes, and Tate was just like that. He added, "The irony was, he didn't have to use violence. His physical bulk would have got him what he wanted." Car dealer Roger Pike, who had known Tate since he was 18, said drugs were responsible for turning him into a gangland thug. Tate had run successful car businesses in Canvey High Street and Orset before getting into trouble. Mr. Pike said he started using steroids to help with his bodybuilding and then got onto other drugs in prison. Other pals described the 18-stone drug baron as a good friend you could trust. Mr. Pike, who owned Pitsy Carriage Company in High Street Pitsy, said he was a nice lad when he was 18 or 19. You'd be happy to take your wife out for a meal with him. The drugs messed him up. He got mixed up with them in prison about 10 years ago. He was inside for a moment of madness when he robbed the caff at the Fortune of War roundabout over an argument over the bill. When they finally brought him back from Spain, he started getting heavily involved in drugs. We noticed a marked change in his character. A post-mortem on Tate's body discovered a combination of heroin, cocaine, steroids and cannabis in his bloodstream. Mr. Pike continued, "I know no one's got a good word to say about him, and I'm not trying to make a saint of him, but I'm shocked and saddened for Pat, because he had a lot of potential. Nobody deserves to die like that." Despite his violent side, Tate held down a stormy relationship with his girlfriend Sarah Saunders for over 10 years, and the couple had a 2-year-old son when Tate was killed. Tate's underworld cronies weren't really surprised when he was found dead. He'd been the target of a gunman once before. Tate was shot at his bungalow in Gordon Road, Basildon in November 1994, was on parole from a prison term for armed robbery. He'd been in the bath preparing for one of Tucker's parties when a brick crashed through the window and bounced to a standstill on the floor. Tate peered through the broken glass and a volley of bullets ripped through the air. He threw his arms up to protect himself and took a shot to the wrist, which travelled down his arm and shattered his elbow. There were suspicions the person responsible was small-time criminal Steve Nipper Ellis. In 1994, he crossed the 3 men. Tucker had a mistress, Donna Garwood, who asked Ellis if he knew where Tucker might be found. Ellis allegedly made a rude remark about Tucker and his old woman, and Donna phoned the comment straight to her lover. Tucker immediately took Rolf and another man down to Ellis's house, and according to Nipper, stuck a loaded pistol to his head. Then they threatened to hack off his hand and foot with a machete. Nipper later said they looted my house and plastered their filth over the stuff they left behind. Nipper bought himself a £600 gun and a bulletproof vest and allegedly went after the gang. Still seething, he was said to have gone to Tate's house. Whilst Tate was treated at Basildon Hospital, Tucker, afraid of another attempt on his friend's life, smuggled a gun and the usual drugs into him. But the stash was discovered by staff making his bed, and Tate soon swapped his hospital ward for a prison cell. Ellis, nicknamed Nipper because he was only 5'5", was arrested by police investigating the attempted murder and was found guilty of illegally possessing firearms. He served nearly 8 months in jail and then went on the run to the West Country. He later said, "When I was in jail I had numerous death threats. On one occasion 2 men come up to me and said there was a £10,000 contract had been put out on me. As soon as I got out of prison I was ordered to leave town. I was told that if I ignored the warnings they would retaliate. A hitman went to my dad's door looking for me. My family were told Tucker and Tate planned to snatch my little sister and take her fingers off one by one. She was only 15 and she was terrified. The threats never stopped." He said of the killings, "I'd love to shake the hand of the man who did it. He's my hero." A man bloated and out of control on drugs was the picture painted by police who investigated the final weeks of Tate's life. Although Tucker and Rolf weren't adverse to violence, Tate seemed to be positively addicted to it. 2 nights before he died, a call was put into the London Pizza Company in Britannia Court, Basildon. A woman told 21-year-old manager Roger Ryle she wanted a special type of pizza, with 4 different toppings on each quarter. Mr. Ryle told her they didn't do that combination. He said Tate grabbed the phone and started swearing down it. He shouted, "You will deliver the pizza, I fucking won't, or I'll come round and get it." I wasn't going to take that, so I said, "Get rid of the attitude and I will send you a pizza." That made him worse and he slammed the phone down. Tate arrived half an hour later and picked up the till and threw it across the room at the manager, who backed out of the office and pushed the panic button. Mr. Ryle said, "He punched me in the face and then smashed my head down on the glass plate on the draining board." Tate warned him not to call the police or he would have returned to smash the place up and hurt his staff, but it was too late. The panic button brought officers after Tate left, and the call was traced to his home in Gordon Road, Basildon. Mr. Ryle decided not to press charges. He had been left with a gashed forehead, bruises and concussion.